Hey guys, so we are getting ready to go live and I have to fix one thing so that we can include our Instagram friends. Oh, you know what? Looks like it's not going to work for Instagram. So that's not going to work today. All right, so we are not going to have our Instagram friends with us today. Sorry about that. So today we are going to discuss new build sales, new build versus resales. Because when you're moving to an area, you have so many options and you're thinking, okay, I want to buy an existing home, but then the new construction looks absolutely amazing. And so you're toying with that as well. And you're not sure exactly which direction you go. So we're going to talk about the pros and cons of both of them. Now, I'm going to show you, I'm going to show you my screen in just a minute. Some of the pros and cons of having a new build is everything's brand new. I mean, how nice is that? Everything is literally brand new. You do not need to worry about the age of the roof or the water heater. It's absolutely lovely. No one has ever lived in it before. And because everything is brand new, you're going to get the best discounts on your home insurance because the roof is new, the water heater is new. There's going to be no issues, and your insurance premium is going to be pretty low. So those are wonderful. Also knowing that no one's ever lived in that house and any scuff marks or anything that's going to happen are going to be what you're going to put on there. Another great benefit of another great benefit of building new is if you are actually building it from the ground up, you get to pick everything, the paint color, all the finishes. And even if you're not building it from the ground up, you may still get like in the middle of it where there might still be time to pick out paint color or maybe some flooring. Now, another benefit of building new, especially if you're going into a community that has a lot of homes being built, is builders have incentives. Most of them partner with a bank, and then they are able to give you, a reduced interest rate either for the life of the loan, or they're going to have a reduced interest rate for like a buy down for a certain number of years. And what do I mean by that? They can either say, hey, we're going to buy down your interest rate for the life of the loan from 6.5% to 6.25. Or they may say, we're going to buy down your interest for the first year. Instead of it being 6.5, it will be 4.5, but then in the second year, it will go up to 6.5 for the rest of the loan. And then we have another one, which is like a stair step, where it says, okay, the first year is going to be 4.5, the second year is going to be 5, and then the third year will be 6.5. So there's a lot of different ways to do it, but many builders on new construction will offer something like that. Some of them will also offer money towards things. They may say, okay, you know what, we'll give you $12,000 and you can put it towards, your point buy down, and you can also do it for help with your closing cost. So your closing cost could be things like, prepaying your insurance, prepaying your property taxes, paying for the survey or any lender charges so that you get help with closing. It can make a very, very huge difference on here. And let me just make sure we don't have any comments coming in on here. Perfect. All right. So that's one of the benefits of buying new. One of the cons of buying new is that many times they've taken all of the trees out and your property only has the landscaping that was put into it. And they might put some shrubs and some bushes in there. They might even put like a tiny little straggly tree at the front, but you're not going to have those massive, beautiful, mature trees because most of them have been pulled down, especially if you're going into a community with a lot of homes being built. Another con is that you may need to agree that you're going to live in that community with all of that noise. So they may be building out and they may say, you know what, we're going to be finished in a year. They may be finished in 10 years. And so you may be driving through or being part of that construction process. And if you're okay with that, that's absolutely fine. If you don't like it, you might want to know that up front before you make that decision. Another thing is that's a con is that Yes, it's brand new and nobody has lived there. And the con is that it's brand new and no one's lived there. So we don't really know how things operate. No house is perfect. And so you go into the house on your first day and you think this is so lovely. Everything is brand new. And then you go to run the dishwasher and then the water pools underneath the dishwasher because there might have been like a hose or a connection that wasn't connected properly. They will fix it. There's no doubt that they will fix it. But you're thinking to yourself, oh my gosh, everything is brand new. Why is this not working? And then you might find that the AC or the heater is not working. Everything is going to get fixed. That's not what you need to worry about. But remember, nobody has lived in there. So when you go to take that 20-minute shower and all of a sudden you just have cold water, you would have known that if this house was previously occupied because the previous owner probably didn't take a 20-minute cold shower, but you won't know these things until you actually live in it, and then you'll need to wait to have somebody come out and fix it. But the good news is it will be fixed, okay? Now I know this firsthand because when we bought our first home, it was a little bit of time, but the primary bathroom shower just never functioned properly. There was always some issue with it, never really could figure out what was wrong with it until one day when I was taking a shower, there was water everywhere. And the builder finally realized that they punctured the liner when they built out the shower. And so they did a wonderful job. They came out, they removed, the lower half of the tile, they redid the shower liner, put it all back, and we were as good as new. But I had to deal with the inconvenience of that. There was no way to know that ahead of time, even though we did have a home inspection as well. You just don't know these things. So new doesn't always mean better, and it certainly doesn't mean perfect. But most builders will offer a warranty for a period of time that if something does go wrong, you can contact them and that they will come out and take care of it. Another thing with new construction is that many times the blinds are not included. Yeah, those things right there. So when you move in and you're not thinking about the blinds, all of a sudden it's nighttime, it's time to go to bed and you need to change clothes and you're realizing like you're in a fishbowl because you don't have any blinds. And so you want to make sure that you take care of that ahead of time. You have somebody come out there, measure all the windows, your blinds are pre-ordered, and then on the day of closing, they can come in there and install the blinds. Now, also, some builders are including a refrigerator and washer and dryer now, but many times you will find that there is no refrigerator and there is no washer and dryer. So you now have the added cost of the blinds and a refrigerator and a washer and dryer. Now, many new construction homes also don't come with a fence. And so if you really, really like your privacy, that is going to be an additional cost. If you need to keep like little Fido from running outside of your property line, then there's going to be a cost for a fence in there as well. So those are just some of the additional costs that you're going to have. Another con of new construction is that a lot of buyers, when they look at the property taxes for new construction, they incorrectly think that that low property tax is going to be what it is going forward. Because when you're shopping online and you see these property taxes everywhere, you're like, oh my gosh, their property taxes are $5,000 a year. And this new construction, its property tax is only $1,000 a year. I'm going to make a huge savings. Well, the reason their property tax is so low is because the house has not been sold. When the house is sold, it's going to reset the property taxes at the purchase price of the home minus any, I can't remember the name of it. Like you get not tax benefits, but like you get 25,000 taken off the assessment, and then 50 if the house is over $75,000, and then you get other things taken off of like you're legally blind or widowed or military or disabled. So it will help lower your tax base, but you will go from $1,000 a year taxes to something that could be like $7,000 or $12,000. And many people are not prepared for that. So that will be a mistake that they made. So you would definitely want to talk about that. Now, one of the pros of buying an existing home is that somebody lives in that house and they know all the things that are wrong with it. Will they tell you? They're supposed to, right? But will they tell you? Maybe, maybe not. But you're going to get an inspection done, and no one's going to live, I don't think, taking a cold shower for 6 months. And they're not going to not cook if the oven isn't working. So you'll have at least those things taken care of, and you won't be surprised when you move in the first day and you find out that your shower is going to be cold. So that is one of the pros of there. Somebody's been living in there. They know all the nuances on there. They've probably fixed the most majority of the little things in there. Another pro is, yes, you get to keep the blinds. You may not like the blinds and you may not like the shutters, but you get to keep them, and you're not living in a fishbowl, and you've got coverage and protection until you decide that you want to change them out at some point in the future. Another pro is that many times you get mature landscaping. Some of the homes, yes, the older ones have gorgeous, gorgeous trees on the property, and that landscaping is just something you can't beat, and you certainly can't replace putting a 30-year-old tree onto a new existing home. At least if you did that, it would be astronomically expensive on there. Now, some of the cons of buying an existing home is kind of talked about a little bit. The seller may not have been completely forthright on some of the issues that were going on in the house. And then you're like, okay, you know what? The water heater just gave out. They had to have known that the water heater is going to give out. Some people do know that it's going to give out, but mostly we don't. Like the water heater is working until it's not working. HVAC usually is working until it's not working. Sometimes you start to feel like it's not cooling off as much. It might be getting older, but the con would be that these are ticket items that are going to need to be replaced. And the house may have already been priced accordingly, knowing that they need to be replaced. And that's how you got your discount. Other ones, they were priced where you're going to need to replace it right after closing. And that may be money that you don't have or didn't budget for. Another con is that it is what it is. You know, when you're buying an existing home, the seller is usually not going to repaint the house. Whereas in a new construction, if you're building it, you get to pick your paint colors, or if you're not too far along in the process, you may be able to pick the paint color before it's finally on the wall. But in an existing house, you're not going to get to do that. New construction, you're going to get to pick flooring. New house, it is already what it is. You're going to have to take care of all of that after closing. And that's the other con, is when you're having to take care of all of this stuff, you're either going to need to have someplace else to live so that these things can get taken care of, or you're going to live in the house with this construction going on. So for example, right now I've got a buyer who's closing tomorrow, and she has decided, because they're moving across state, is that they're going to decide to come in about a week after closing, so that they're going to have all of the flooring done in the house. And they wanted to have the house painted, but they couldn't figure out paint colors. And you really want to be here when you do the paint colors. And so they're going to wait to do the paint later, but that means they're going to have to live through that construction process of having everything in the house and the painter having to move everything to get to it. But then at least they'll get to pick their paint color. So when we're talking about pricing on new construction, you're wondering, okay, it is more costly to build than it is to buy. And this is where I want to share my screen with you, because I want to show you what I actually see when I am looking at this. So all right. So this is our multiple listing service here. Okay, hopefully you can be able to read that now. Okay, so I am looking at all homes that are currently listed for sale. They're currently listed for sale, so they're all active right here. Looking specifically at Alachua County, I'm specifically looking for single family homes. And you can see that in Gainesville, Alachua County, there are single family homes, 484 for sale. It's a lot of homes. Now, if I go over here and I click the button for new construction and I say yes, 71 of those are new construction. Let me just redo this one more time because it seems low to me. So let's start over. Active, Alachua County, single family homes. Okay, that sounds more like it. There's 838 homes for sale in Alachua County. Now, if we go over here to new construction, 194 of those are brand new construction. That is a lot of homes. And if we're going to look at the results of this on a map, this is where all the homes are. Okay, that's a lot of homes. So we see that most of these new construction homes are here in High Springs. We've got some in Alachua, a little bit in Newberry, but this is a 21. I don't know if you can see it. It says 21 right there. So 21 homes in that development. And then we've got a lot here in Gainesville. But I want you to notice this. If you're wanting a new construction home and you're wanting it in the heart of Gainesville, do you see there's nothing in the heart of Gainesville? Because all the property has been purchased, houses already exist on it. It's too expensive to buy a lot of land and then take the houses to the ground and then try to put new homes up in that subdivision. Even if you try to get 5 acres, it's still going to be too expensive. So if you're looking for new construction, you can see right in here, we don't have any new construction in the middle of Gainesville. So I do have a lot of people that are like, hey, I want to build a house in the middle of Gainesville. You're going to try to look for a one-off lot, and it's going to be very, very expensive. Now, this is still Gainesville. This is off of Parker Road over here. And then we've got town of Tioga right here. So we've got a lot of new construction, but it's more towards Jonesville than it is the middle of town. And then we've got a few homes clustered right here off of Tower Road. So let's go back and let's look at these homes. The least expensive home in Alachua County, that's new construction, starts at $224,000. And then if we go to the most expensive home, the most expensive home is also in Newberry, new construction, and it is basically $1.9 million. So what I normally do is if you're wanting to know, okay, well, what's the average price of new construction homes? Because we're looking at a price per square foot. So I go to the stats over here and taking all properties in, everything from the lowest price all the way up to that $1.9 million house. It shows you here that the average house is about 2,000 square feet and the list price is around $500,000. And the price per square foot is around $225,000. Now, that doesn't really mean anything to you right now because I want you to see here. I told you there's 194 homes for sale that are new construction. And you can see there are only 14 of them that are underneath $300,000. And most of these are not in Gainesville. There's a couple in Gainesville, but most of these are not in Gainesville if you're wanting to have a house underneath $300,000. And you can see most of them are pretty small, 1,200 square feet, 1,200 square feet. Now, once you get outside of Gainesville, you can get bigger. You can get into the 1,700, 1,300 square foot house, but you're going to need to be outside of Gainesville. Now, once we come, closer to Gainesville, we start getting over 300,000. Here at the lower price point, we are still outside of Gainesville. So if you're looking for new construction, a budget-friendly house, and you are going to be wanting to be in the low 300s, you are going to be looking outside of Gainesville. And here we're at in the 350s. We are still outside of Gainesville. So you can see that if you're wanting that, you're going to be more in like Alachua and Newberry. And then here we are at 100 homes. And we're now just breaking into the 400,000, but now we're into Gainesville. So we had to start getting into Gainesville. Our home prices started to be around $384,000. So let's say 385 is when you started to get into Gainesville and you can get new construction there. Anything less than that, you might find something in Gainesville. It's probably going to be on the smaller side, but you're really going to be more outside of Gainesville. But here we are at 100 homes of the 200 that are new construction, and we got, 439. So you do have a lot of choices if you're in the 400,000s. And still in the 400,000s, we get all the way to 150 homes that are underneath $500,000. Now, I don't know that there are a huge number of shoppers that are in the 450s, 500,000. We're starting to see people push up into that price point, but it's more rarefied air there. And then you see that there's, fewer homes in the 500, 600,000s in here. So you can buy new construction. You can get it for underneath 500,000. You got 151 choices in there. And as you get closer to the fours and fives, you can find more property in Gainesville. But if you're wanting a lot of house that is going to be less expensive, then you're going to need to plan to be about 25 minutes outside of Gainesville. And then, you get the builder is also a pro or con. And I'm not going to name any builders in there. If you ever have a question about a builder, just Google them. You can Google them. You can go to YouTube. You can talk to your friends and you can find out, is that builder responsive? Does that builder, when they say that they're going to come out and take care of any property issues that you may have, are they going to run out there and take care of it? Or is it going to be a nightmare to get a hold of them? And do they actually cover what they're saying? So talk to people about that. They'll also talk to you about the construction of the house. Some people will say, oh my gosh, the walls are paper thin. I didn't even know about that being a thing until I was working with one of the builders on my homes, and they said, hey, do you want us to insulate the wall? And I'm thinking, I don't know what you're talking about. And they said, because this wall is behind the living room where the TV is going to be, and we don't normally put insulation in there, so it may be loud in your bedroom. And I was like, okay. So, does the builder automatically do that? Is that an option? Are the walls paper thin, or do they do any kind of insulation in there? So you'll want to find out, is the builder going to make or break your situation? Now, some builders, there are no changes. There are absolutely none. And I will say that I will tell you who this builder is, because most people know them. So D.R. Horton has many different communities. And in some communities that are very budget conscious, there are no changes. It is what it is. When you go there, you're going to pick, when you see this lot, the lot already has a pre-assigned house to it. And it also has pre-assigned colors and all the elements that are going to come with it. So there are no changes. So if you're like, well, I like this house, but I really wish it had white cabinets, they will tell you which lot that model floor plan is going to be on with the white cabinets. And then you'll need to make a decision if, okay, you know what? I don't want to wait 9 months for that house to be built. I need to move tomorrow, so I may have to take the brown cabinets. Now, D.R. Horton has different communities. Like I said, in some communities, there is the opportunity to make some changes in there. You may not be able to make a lot of changes. Now, when you're in that community, the price point is a little bit higher because they're not getting to order all of their stuff in as much bulk and have it already planned out and be more efficient. So when you have some leeway for creativity and change, then you're also going to have a higher price point with that. And that can be a pro or con for you, depending on if that's important to you or not. So now that we know that, hey, there are 150 new construction homes underneath $500,000, so you've got some choices and you can still be in Gainesville for that. One of the things I want to look at here is this list price per square foot. Now, you may hear a lot of people talk about price per square foot, and it does mean something and it doesn't mean something. Don't put all the weight on this price per square foot, because a lot of things go into that. So I see a house here that's like $120 per square foot versus you see a house over here that is, $237 per square foot. So let's use this as an example of like, what do you get then? So this house here, that's $162 a square foot. Let's take a look. Maybe there's some photos of what you get. Okay, so we don't have a screened lanai. We do have a lanai, but we don't have a screened lanai. We don't have a fence. Remember, I said there's no blinds. Obviously, there's no blinds here. Looks like we've got, some no carpet. That's good. Mirrors, nothing fancy. It's just a mirror. I'm not seeing that the lighting above it is super fantastic. We have a tray ceiling, but there's not a light in there. There's no crown molding. Now, there's nothing wrong with this. A lot of people will like the minimalistic design on there. I can see here from this that these are basic lights, nothing fancy. This is a low faucet. Personally, I like to have a higher faucet, but that's just me. So, I mean, it's fine, no No bells and whistles. We got some backsplash on here. That's nice. So this is, you know, what, $162 a square foot, no refrigerator. Maybe they'll put it in later. That doesn't mean that there isn't one coming. Um, but this is not in Gainesville. So if we go back, remember I told you there was a house in here that was like $237 a square foot. So when you start getting up in price per square foot, oh, let's look at this one for 336. You expect more. You expect more bells and whistles. You expect more features in here. I don't know if we're going to actually get to see a house because it looks like since this is new construction, they don't have that up there. Let's see if I can find one that there is actually a photo. Okay, well, certainly on the struggle bus of finding one. Okay, let's go to the inside, see what we got. You know, this one's got a fireplace. You've got crown molding on the top of the cabinets. This is a custom cabinet. It comes out here. A lot of times when you get in the higher price per square foot, you will start to see changes in the elevation of the cabinet because it's inexpensive to have them go all the way across. It gets more expensive when they have to go up and down. And okay. So let's go back to our results here. Another thing that you want to know about when you are looking at new construction is that many times this price that we're seeing here, that's not the final price. That is usually a base price because when you get to make some changes to it and you say, you know what, I want, let me find a builder here, like Oakmont. You say, you know what, I want this model. This is the perfect model for me. And then you start making changes. So this model may be like, okay, well, we're going to have carpet in the bedrooms and this is going to be the finishes in the house. And you say, well, you know what, I'd like for you to take that flooring all through the house. And I would also like for you to put crown molding in the living room and the common areas. And let's switch out the faucets. This is my favorite faucet. So when you start doing that and then you say, oh, you know what, I want you to paint the bedroom a different color and I want the ceiling to be a different color from the paint on the walls, but I want all three bedrooms to have different colors. All of that starts adding up and it starts adding to this number. So a lot of times when you're looking online and you see, oh my gosh, this house is only $550,000 and it's beautiful. When you get in there and you start designing it, then it could be $600,000 or it could be 625. So you don't always want to believe what you see. And that is one of the cons on there is that the price isn't always the price, especially if this one's under construction and there's opportunity for you to make changes to it. It is absolutely going to drive the price up. But then that may be a pro if you're somebody who wants to have some sort of creative control over your choices. So it can be either way on there. Now, let's take a look at the existing homes. If we say no new construction, we got 644 homes. Now, if you are wanting to be close to the university, you are going to be in luck because look at this. We got homes and then we got homes, right? And so this tells you there's 214 here in Gainesville. And then we got 123, 91. So you are going to have a lot more choices when you go with an existing home. You are also going to have a lot more, you can have a lot more negotiation power because there are 644 existing homeowners out there all wanting to sell their homes. Now, some of them need to sell their homes for a variety of reasons. They're moving. It's a probate situation. It's a death. Maybe they are behind on their bills and they can't take care of the house anymore. Any number of reasons. So those people end up being highly motivated to make a deal with you. They might even give you some money towards closing costs like a builder would do and point buy down. And this is great. Whereas we saw there were 200 homes. Yes, builders are motivated, but they don't normally reduce the purchase price of the house because that's going to set up the comp for the next sale. And that will end up bringing down the value of their inventory. But this seller who's got one home to sell, they don't care. All they know is they need to get out from this one home. So you're going to have a lot more negotiation power in there. Now, the cons, of course, you're getting an older home. If it doesn't have updated things, you may not be getting the maximum discount that you're going to get on your insurance. And then things may be at end of life. So you may got a deal on a house that's 300,000 in a neighborhood where everything is 375, but it's going to need a new roof and it's going to need a new AC and it's going to need a new water heater, but that would still be less than the existing owner putting it on and then selling it for 375. I've got a situation where we had a house and everything in the neighborhood was selling for close to 400. There were some things that closed at 350, but they weren't fixed up. And if it was fixed up, it sold for 400,000. This house was not. It needed so much love. And the buyer ended up picking it up for 270. I mean, that is huge. But I want you to understand, this buyer was a contractor. And this house needed every stitch of help. And so they were able to pick up a really, really good deal. When I spoke to him the other day and went to see the house after he had been doing some remodeling on it, it's stunning. He moved walls, he raised the ceiling. I mean, like just did amazing stuff to it, but he's 100 grand into it. So 270, now we're at 370. If he were to sell it today, he should be able to sell it for over $400,000, but he's also 6 months into this work. So time is money. So there's a cost in there with that. So you can get a good deal. You need to understand what that deal is going to be and if you're ready to do it, and if you're going to just enjoy the benefits of your labor or if you're going to try to make it into a flip. I think if he was going to flip it, he wouldn't have put as much into it, but this house was for his daughter. So he put everything he could into it to make it wonderful for her. Now, remember we looked at like the price per square foot on everything. And this is really not a good indicator, but just to give you an idea, when we were looking at new construction, we were looking at like 225 is what it came out to when we were looking at 200 homes. Here we're looking at 236. So not too much of a difference, but we have more homes and we also have many at a higher price point. If we look at our most expensive home in new construction, remember it was close to 1.9 million. Here, and this is why the price is higher on price per square foot, we have a home that's basically, let's just say 3.8, because that's what it is. Almost 3.8 million. And so you saw that if you wanted new construction, that wasn't even an option on there. You got a lot of homes in here that weren't even an option. And the mature trees, remember that is definitely a plus on here. So lots of pros and cons. At the end of the day, only you can make the decision on what is going to be the best. If you are trying to be in the middle of Gainesville and you want a new construction, it's not existent unless you go and buy a piece of land that either has a house on it and you're willing to pay the cost to take that house down and then put on a new one, or you're able to find a lot that someone has not built on and then you're going to put a house on it. Now, word of caution to you when you do that is you will now probably be the best house in that neighborhood. And if you need to go and sell, you're not going to get what you put into the house back as far as money goes, because there's no competition or no comparative properties to compare it against. So you're going to end up losing money on that. So if you want a new house and you're willing to live further away so that you can get more house for your money and you're going to have a drive, then that property exists and they're going to be just outside of Gainesville. Plan to spend about 15, but I would say 25 minutes on average for that drive. And then you'll have your builder incentives in there, but you're not going to have your blinds and you're probably not going to have your fenced yard. So just plan to put those things in after you move in. You will get some builder incentives as far as point buy down and help with closing costs. but you can honestly still negotiate that into buying an existing home. Now, with the new construction, you'll get everything brand new, and most of them will give you that builder warranty where they'll come out and take care of it. But then with the existing home, you'll know pretty much what the issues are and it will be priced accordingly for it. Like I said, you can already negotiate with the seller to help you with any point buy down or closing costs. So that's going to work in both. And you'll already have those blinds in place, whether you like them or not, they're going to be there and you can change them out later, but at least you'll have that option. And you're going to have that mature landscaping. And you'll also be able to find more inventory. And if you want it to be in a specific area, like close to the university, you're going to be able to find that as well. It's going to have a higher price tag, but at least it's going to be an option. Whereas right now, that new construction is not even an option in there. And the great thing about buying an existing home is you'll probably get to move into it right at closing. You may not, depending on if there's a tenant in there or not. But with new construction, you may need to be prepared to wait, especially if you're going to build from the ground up. That could be 6 months. If it's a custom, it could be more like a year, year and a half. And so if you're okay with waiting because you have some place, that's great. But if you're not okay with waiting and you need to move tomorrow, then you're going to have to select from one of the homes that are currently out there. And out of the 194 that are currently out there, remember, they're not all done. That's just what they're advertising for. It's not what's actually finished. So you're going to actually have a smaller pool than that. If you've got any questions that I did not answer on the pros and cons of buying a new build or a resale, just give me a call, schedule a call with me, send me a text or an email. I'll be happy to answer any of those questions. And if I may even make them into the next video there. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one, which is next week. So make sure you join me. All right, bye.